What's going on, everybody? It is time once again. We are Siege. I am Smitty, and this is Off Topic, on brand.
I didn't know if you were teeing it up to me, man, or not. There was an awkward pause there, so I just wanted to make sure that we weren't hoping that I hadn't forgotten what the name of the damn show was.
You know, it kind of creeped in the back of my mind, and also it was one of those things where going into this, I knew that today was going to be big because I just want to let everybody know this is the last episode of April Fools. We're recording on April Fools. I wasn't going to lean into it, but I had an opportunity. I kind of had to. It's my first day back on the job after being sick.
Well, with that panic attack you just gave me and all the headache we had, I'm gonna take a drink out of Das Boot. So there you go.
Well, and I also want to go ahead and preface this. I'm still dealing with some of the plague that I picked up last week. So basically, I just have horrible seasonal allergies. And a couple weekends ago, I was outside basically the entire weekend. I was porch sitting, I was fishing, just hanging outside as much as I could. And all the pollen decided to come firing right up my nose and give me this lovely sinus thing. I actually lost my voice. I was probably at about 20% last week to the point I actually had to miss work because I'm a dispatcher, and part of my job is communicating on phones and radios. Like 90% of what I do is that. And so it's kind of hard to do a job like that and to do a podcast when all you can really do is sound like this at best. So thanks for having Trista come in and pinch hit for me last week. You guys had a killer episode. I watched the video finally over the past couple days, and I listened to the podcast driving to my mom's house on Saturday. So, yeah, anytime that Trista wants to come back on, we definitely have a spot for her, don't we?
We'll get her enlisted whenever one of us goes down with an illness of some sort. But unfortunately, she's one that gets the exact same type of allergies that you do. It starts in the head. You start having that headache. You get the drainage. Then you can't breathe. So you sound like a clown car, and you can't really do anything. And then it settles in the chest, and then it's like, oh my God, dude, you need an inhaler or something, a sledgehammer to break that stuff up. So yeah, no, it was wonderful being able to record with her and doing the on-location recording that we did. For those of you that just listened to the audio version, listening to the birds chirp, no, we didn't have any birds infest our house. It was literally, we took her daughter, did gymnastics on Wednesday, and it was a beautiful day out, like it would have been a sin to be indoors. And we know a lot of gymnastics parents in the program we take our daughter to like to walk laps, but it's essentially in an industrial park in that area. So it's like, where are you walking to? Like, I know some people walk laps around the building, but it's like you can't walk along the street or on the sidewalk because there's so much traffic there that even if you're on a sidewalk, it's not really safe, or at least I wouldn't feel safe being the country boy I am. But just like not even 2 minutes from there, we found a little park area that is next to some business complex. And initially it was like, well, should we park in this lot? It's like, there's nobody here. It's after hours. If there is a security guard that comes up and wants to tag us, we can run away from the recording. But yeah, getting out in the open, doing something like that. If we lived closer, we would have more opportunity to do stuff like that. But I don't know if you noticed, I think that she felt a lot more comfortable doing the on-location remote versus doing in studio here in the basement. Because again, we've done two official podcasts together now, and one was in the basement when we talked about her favorite band. And to me, she felt shy. I was like, you're not shy. We've had this conversation in the truck umpteen thousand times. And with you, she was so much more relaxed talking about books. It's a subject that she can talk about for days. And same with ours. It was a similar type deal. And I was super impressed. She was so researched on what she wanted to talk about. She had me beat to the punch. It was my idea, and she already had everything mapped out and ready to go the day before. I'm like, I don't have all of my stuff yet, so
the pinch hitter comes in and shows up the main person here, huh?
Yep, it's like some of the kids in the NCAA tournament. You got the freshmen on the team, and they're worth more than their salt for sure in that. So yeah, no, it it was a great time, and yeah, definitely is welcome back. Hopefully someday Snap will work her way up to being on the podcast as well. We still have, and we've talked about it off mic, we still have our cigarette bomb list that we got to get to at some point that we will need the valuable input from the two of them on. But so for me, really, for the check-in, this week was kind of boring. Other than having Trista lean in and do the record with us last Wednesday, really the biggest thing that we did was Trista had kind of planted the seeds like, ribs sound pretty good. So Saturday she was working at the library, and you better believe that I ran to the store and got 2 different types of ribs. I got me a slab of baby backs and a slab of St. Louis cut ribs, and threw both of those on the charcoal grill and smoked it slow and low like I did with the brisket a few weeks ago. And my God, man, turned out perfect. It was a little bit longer on the grill than I wanted it to. Couldn't really keep the heat up, but really slow and low. And, turned out great. And I will say this, I was kind of shocked having them side by side. I prefer the baby back over the St. Louis cut ribs.
Really? Now, what is it? Because I've always been a St. Louis guy myself. So when you did the side by side, what was it that won you over? I'm curious now.
And we dry rubbed. There was no sauce. So, again, kind of like, well, if you're going to do an apples-to-apples comparison, this is the time to do it. I don't know. It just, for whatever reason, both of them came out. Neither one of them were fall-off-the-bone tender. It was not competition style by any means, but a little more firm than the fall-off-the-rib cut or style that we've had before. And I don't know. I just kind of felt like the baby backs were a little more tender, and maybe I could have thrown the other. Even though both were up to temperature, could have left the St. Louis style cut because they are a little thicker, a little fattier. Could have left them on a little bit longer. Maybe I could have rested them a little bit longer instead of serving them up at the same time. But both were juicy. I did the 3-2-1 method, and about the only thing I didn't do is I didn't spritz them with applesauce. I didn't spritz them with apple cider vinegar or apple juice or anything. I didn't really feel the need to. It turned out great. And neither one of us or our daughter even had any complaints. We're sucking the fat off the bone, whatever residual was left on there. It was a good time and a really good dinner on Saturday, and still had a few leftovers here and there that we've picked up along the way. So pretty good time there. But yeah, really, other than that, not a whole lot going on. Softball, and I'm able to record today due to my wife taking our daughter into gymnastics. So they're going to make a grocery store run after that and then come home, and Dad will have to unload in the rain. So
that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Nothing like these good old spring showers and everything, right? April showers, May flowers, whatever the hell.
As long as we're not getting snow showers along with it, I am long past that. You can bring the rain, and again, as we've mentioned before with my war wounds, we have a brand new sump pump, so it's working well so far. So what's going on with you, man? Again, besides being under the weather, was that pretty much it? Oh wait, no, something big has happened since our last recording.
Nothing at all.
What was it? It was something important with you. It was your birthday. And I don't know how to read a freaking calendar to save my life, and made the big grandiose gesture on our socials to promote your birthday, and it was day early, so.
Yeah, when you sent me that text Monday morning, I just looked at my phone because I turned my alarm off. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a day to sleep in. And I get this text just a little before, around 7 o'clock, tell me happy birthday, and I just looked at it. And the first thing I said was, CJ, damn it. And so I was just like, dude, it's tomorrow. The joke's always been you start the month, I finish the month. But hey, not to say that I didn't appreciate it at the same time, and the shout out that you gave me on the social page and everything, I thought that was super cool. And so, I turned 43 yesterday, March 31st, another lap around the sun. And so, you know what I did to treat myself on my 43rd birthday?
What was that?
I walked 3 miles. I don't know why. And this whole time that I was walking this 3 miles, I actually walked 3 miles on Monday as well. So in 2 days, 6 miles worth of walking. That's 8 miles more than I probably have walked already somehow. No, I've actually been trying to hit the trail a bit more and stuff like that. But I'm having this thought as I'm walking along. It's like years ago, the thought of walking 3 miles would be stupid. The first and only thought I probably would have had is, what am I going to drink tonight? How much of that am I going to drink tonight? Who's going to babysit my drunk ass? And then where am I going to end up sleeping? Is it going to be in a vehicle? Is it going to be on a bench somewhere? Am I going to be the guy that falls asleep on the stool at the end of the bar, at the house party, whatever? And I'm walking along just laughing at this thought. It's like, this is 43 now, I guess. So walking and doing a healthy thing as opposed to drinking a bunch. It's weird, dude.
Taking care of yourself. What an idiot.
This whole growing up thing's weird, man. I don't know I've never been this old. I don't know how to act my age, you know? But, yeah, you know, it was good. Took a couple days off. Actually, over the weekend, I went down to Mom's house, and she had some barbecue for me. Family came over. We played some cards and just kind of took it easy. Sunday, went to church, had some leftovers, played some more cards, and came home. And it was just settled in to not do anything for a couple days. And Monday, I think the highlight of what I did over the past couple days was walking and laundry. And then I played some video games in my underwear. And that was pretty well what I wanted to do. It was one of those things where for many years, I've explicitly said, don't do anything big for my birthday. I don't want this whole grand thing done. I don't want a lot of gifts because it was always one of those things where financial issues and you know, I don't want to be the reason why we're falling behind on a bill. I don't want to be the reason why if an emergency pops up, we can't handle that because we spent this money for your birthday. That was always my thought. And I was like, please don't do anything big. Well, I never got that gift, which good and bad. You know, I've always kind of been low key on my birthday. It's like, don't make a big deal out of me. Don't make a big deal out of this. It's just a day, and I just want some food, and I just want to chill. And so that's what I did this year. I went and bought myself some Burger King. Got some of those onion rings with the zesty sauce.
No, you didn't.
I did, yes. That's exactly what I decided to eat yesterday.
No. What did you message me, sir? You didn't get Burger King.
Yeah, apparently Jerry got that. Yeah, I gave them my name at the drive-thru window, and I pull around, and this woman's like, is this for Jerry? And I looked around, yeah, that's mine. Womp womp. So,
were you in your race car that day?
I guess so, man. Come flying up that window, smoke rolling or something, I guess. I don't know, but
Jerry was a race car driver, man.
But it was good, you know. I just kind of had a low-key day and enjoyed it, and then get back to work today, and got to find out I have to be at work tomorrow at like 3:15 in the morning, so that's fun after, you know, not waking up to an alarm for several days in a row, and now I'm riding a bit of the struggle bus, but hey, tomorrow's Thursday, got a weekend already closer, so I'll take it, and we'll roll on into the Easter weekend.
Absolutely. And for those of you joining us on just the audio side of things, what do you think about the new graphics?
Man,
it's pretty, isn't it?
Fancy. We got new logos. Oh man, you did a great job.
Dude,
taking the idea. Okay.
You were patting me on the ass way too much. This was a collaborative effort, and you know it. And I will say this. I did take it upon myself. I did get a demo set of stickers. So I think we have a good company picked out. But with this brand new logo that you have your pretty little eyes on right now, those of you in the audience, what would you think? Would you want to get some of these stickers? And we're not even going to be one of those a-hole people. It's like $5 and you get a sticker.
No.
If you want a sticker, you just got to tell us. That's all you got to do, and we'll hook you up. So, just let us know in the comments on any of the socials, here on the YouTube video, on the Spotify even. Just let us know. We want to hook you up. We want people to admire our handiwork.
There we go. Some swag.
And
Nothing
who
wrong
knows?
with that.
Who knows? Maybe someday shirts, hoodies, hats.
Oh, heck yeah, dude. I would like some boxers with I was going to say boxers with our faces on it. Can you imagine doing the sexy dance and you look down there and it's just me and you wiggling?
There you go. There you go.
If that doesn't sell underwear, I don't know what does.
Well, it's underpants gnomes, but in reverse. We're trying to get people to buy the underpants, so...
Yeah, take your shot, right?
Which step are we skipping? Because it's not 3, because we'll profit and then buy underpants, but there's something that we need to skip here to make the underpants gnomes work. I don't know. We'll figure that out along the way.
Yeah,
but yeah.
that's future.
So pretty good check-in, pretty laid-back weekend, and good to hear that you had a good birthday, despite the fact that I tried to extend it as much as I could and make a grand show of it when you wanted to be laid back. What an asshole! God, ungrateful. Now you're hacking a lung up.
I know. I do want to apologize. I'm still dealing with the residuals of all this lovely crap that's draining down. I've got the good old cough of everything. It feels like it's right here right now. So if you see me, I promise I'm not dying. It may sound like it. It might look like it. If something happens and I fall back while we're recording this, and I don't get up in a reasonable amount of time, I mean, you got to factor in, I am 43. I am not just going to spring right back up. But, if I'm down for like a minute or something, you might want to call somebody, Jackson, call the police department here in town and be like, my buddy, I think he might be dying over there.
That would be bad, though, because that will work for us, obviously, on my end of things right now. But for those that are watching in the future, that's going to be very odd to get that call, and then you get a welfare check. So maybe we shouldn't encourage people to do that. I'll just let you fall on the ground and stay there.
There we go.
Okay.
You guys want to see a dead body?
Poke you with a stick.
Yeah.
Do something. All right, so that was a pretty good check-in, but next on, we got to move to pop culture, sir.
Let's do it.
All right, pop culture. I'm going to pick up where I left off last week. I don't know shit about fuck when it comes to the NCAA. So congratulations, sir, for getting more points and winning our women's bracket. It didn't take a whole lot since my teams just absolutely got smoked.
Yeah, I was going to say, you kind of leaned a little too hard on ISU, and I get it.
Yeah.
They look so promising. But
so I am pulling brackets up now. Let me see. Do I have the men's grabbed right now?
I think I got half of my men's bracket still in the Final Four. I know that Arizona is one that I'd picked. I think I had Arizona getting bounced in the Final Four, if I remember right, and then I had Duke over Houston.
You have in your men's brackets, let me see, you've got UConn over South Carolina. You've got UCLA over Texas. And
no, that's the women's side.
Oh, that is the women's side. Okay, so that's who your Final Four is on the women's side of things. And you got UConn as your ultimate winner. You've got 900 points already. I capped out at 610, so needless to say, just an absolute drubbing on that side of it. And then on the men's side, let me actually get over where I'm supposed to be. I somehow have more points than you, which is confusing to me. But 600 to 550, and I think we're both busted. So you might have some that are still on the bracket that are alive, but you went with Duke. Yep. They had probably the most memorable game of the entire NCAA men's tournament, one of the shots that will live on forever and ever and ever, and one of the worst defensive displays I've ever seen. The guy that he shot the ball against didn't
do anything.
Nothing. So that was a big takeaway from that game. And then again, on the men's side, I did the exact same thing, leaned way too hard on Iowa teams, and I was like, well, hey, Iowa's still in it. I know my bracket's busted, but they can still go. Nah. So
that was hope for a second, and then I get you.
Yeah. So again, I recap where I left off at the end of last week and the start of last week too for my pop culture. I don't know shit about fuck when it comes to the NCAA. So anyway, what do you got for pop culture, man?
You know, I really don't have a whole lot, but the main thing that I want to talk about is this band that both you and I found out about earlier in March, I guess it was. And it's a band called Cigarettes at Sunset.
Oh, so good.
Right? Just incredibly catchy. It's a band out of, I believe it's Boone, North Carolina is where they're from. And they were one of those bands that popped up. It was on Instagram, one of the reels that kept popping up for me. And I was like, 90% of the time when bands pop up on my Instagram a lot, I assume that it's a paid promotion.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, they just don't click for me. It's like, I appreciate what you're doing. I understand that you're trying to boost your profile. I understand that you're trying to get some exposure on the art that you're creating. I will not knock that whatsoever. You're hustling. You're doing the work. And I'm sure that there are bands that do that gain a lot of fans. And that's awesome. A lot of the times it just does. I don't know if maybe the algorithm gets skewed the wrong way or something. I don't know. But this one hit me just perfect. It's a blend of, they call it Possum Rock, and that's the name of the EP that came out. I believe it was March 13th, a couple Fridays ago. And it launched, I think it's 5 or 6 tracks. I can't remember exactly.
I think
how
you're
many.
right. I think it's 6. Yeah.
Yeah. And the first song of theirs that I heard was My Fix. And that's the song that sucked me in. That's the song that is still heaviest in rotation of them. It's just got one of the most incredibly fun, catchy choruses. And they have, it's a 5-piece band. Or maybe even a 6-piece. They have a woman that plays fiddle in the group. So it's kind of this country-ish vibe, but it's also indie rock, I guess is kind of where the streams are crossing. And dude, it's one of those that if you have a chance, pull it up. It's a quick listen. And anybody that's listening right now, this is a very easy to digest album. It's going to be one of those where choruses get stuck in your brain for days and days and days and days and days. In fact, I told Snap one night, I was talking to her, I was like, look, I've had this song in my head for about a week now. I need you to listen to this song. And so while we were talking, she pulls it up. She's like, okay, I hear that. And then it gets to the chorus. Yep. And there's something about the way that he says, I can taste the nicotine on your lips. The way he goes, I can taste the nicotine on your lips. Like with that southern drawl. It's just like, all right, there it is. And she goes, okay, yeah, I catch the vibe. And so like a week later, talking to her, and I can hear her music in the background. That song comes on. I'm like, you're still listening to it, aren't you? She's like, yeah. It's in there. So it's slowly spreading from East Coast to West Coast. I think they've got some Midwest tour dates coming up. They were in St. Louis back in February. I saw their backlog. They had played up there in support of a group, and now they're supporting another group now. Can't remember if they're coming to St. Louis again or if they're going to be playing up your way. I can't remember, but yeah, definitely My Fix is the song I would recommend. Old Bleached Hair was the one I know that you got stuck on for a hot minute as well.
Dude, and that is one, and it's stupid because this weekend was beautiful up here. We even hit 90 on Sunday. Or no, Monday. Monday we hit 90. But it was Saturday when I went and I grilled, and that was immediately on my grilling playlist.
Oh, heck yeah.
And even though it was windy and kind of chilly, it wasn't cold by any means, but it was definitely cooler than I would have wanted to be grilling.
Yeah.
That's going to be the soundtrack of the summer for sure. If you're out doing any type of grilling, if you're hanging around at a barbecue, if you're... well, if you're somebody that's got a fire pit and likes to really hang out late in the evening with people around, that is definitely going to be on the soundtrack for sure of those events. And I can't put into words how it impacted me, because generally speaking, that style of music has got to be exceptional for me to really be hooked in. And from the first chorus of that song, done. Yeah. And I shared it with you, and you're like, oh my God, man, I can't stop listening to it.
Right.
And they weren't on my Instagram algorithm. They popped up on a Facebook feed, I think.
Okay.
And it was one of those that in a lot of cases, if you hear a song first and then see a video, you're like, oh, thank God I saw the video after I heard the song.
Right.
I was very lucky that the song was so captivating and engaging that I could overlook how doofy the video looked. And again, it's not like some of those bands that we've talked about, like Electric Callboy. They purposely go out of their way to be bombastic and eclectic with their videos just for the laughs. It's just like, this sound should not be coming out of this group. It doesn't compute. So I'm glad I gave it a shot, because that EP, it's solid. I don't think there is a bad cut on it.
And you know what also has really impressed me with that is the quality of the recording of that. Oh, yeah. I don't know if you've really listened to it with earbuds or phones on or anything, but that sounds really good. Like, that is better than what you would expect from most young bands putting an EP out right now. I was very impressed with that.
Well, and I think it's got a little bit of a timeless quality to it. If that would have dropped in 95, 96, it would fit just as well as it is now. And I think to its benefit that it's out now, what else is out there that sounds like this?
Oh, exactly. This would be one of the...
I think there's enough of a difference in sound and vibe that there's nothing that sounds like this right now that's modern.
No. And could you imagine if they had come out in the 90s, a tour with them, Gin Blossoms and Tonic, or Hootie and the Goo Goo Dolls and Cigarettes at Sunset? Those groups together would be such a tight, fun tour.
Dude, and that's the thing. They've got enough country in them, enough southern bluesy, I don't want to say blues rock because it's not quite that Kenny Wayne Shepherd style, but they've got enough crossover power. They could partner up with somebody that is a pop country, something that's right there, and hit a college tour. Dude, they'll explode.
Perfect. Yeah, and I hope that is what I hope that's what happens. It's weird, this is like the subfloor level that we're on with this group right now. They're just really getting their legs going with them. And so, I'm definitely excited to see where this road leads them, because I definitely have to think with them all. I don't know how old they are, but looking at them, I would say mid-late 20s, something like that. They look like they're pretty dang young.
Well, they're babies compared to us. But
right. Yeah, everybody is. Everybody's a kid. Yeah, if you're not in your 30s, you're a kid, right?
But again, that's a wonderful shout, and I can't recommend them enough. As a matter of fact, I was playing them while I was out grilling, and because it was a slow, low cook, I had the opportunity to pass them along to a handful of people, because, again, I was rocking the EP start to finish, and it also gave me a very happy memory, because then I was able to go back with it being called Possum Rock. I went back and found the Dirty 30s.
Oh, heck yeah,
Spotify
man.
Again. And it had been a hot minute since I had listened to the Dirty 30s. So that put a big smile on my face. You got to love Swamp East.
Oh, man, heck yeah. There's several of those bands from the era when I was playing music and we had shows and stuff like that. I believe Lost Possum has both of their albums are on there. Speaking of Possum Rock, you just have this whole thing tied together. So, definitely a good playlist from back in the day that you could throw on there, and that would bring back all those good college, early post-college era of what was still left of our music scene at that time.
It was a good time to be down there, and for those memories that we do remember, it was a wonderful time to be in downtown Cape. So that said, I think that's a nice, neat little bow on pop culture. Again, Cigarettes at Sunset. Check them out. It is. As soon as possible. We recommend them highly. And that EP is definitely one that will continue to be spun for the duration of 26 and then beyond, I'm sure. But that also ties in nicely with our main event topic, sir. Do you want me to take this, or do you want to kind of lead into it?
Since this was your idea, and I know how hot under the collar this sort of thing makes you, I'm going to let you have the floor and tell everybody what we're getting into with the main event tonight.
So I will try not to swear too profusely at this. So I am someone that absolutely enjoys hearing reviews. I am not opposed to a critic. If somebody has something that is a tangible complaint, if somebody has something that is this should have been better, I will take it as what it is. And depending on who the source is coming from, you got to take it with a grain of salt. And in a lot of cases, a huge heaping of salt. But there is an item, an article, a genuine thing, an entity that I take such issue with. And I have for many, many years. And I don't know if I will ever take them credibly for what they are. The item in topic conversation is Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone magazine, to me, is so pretentious. They are a bunch of fart sniffers. And I don't mean to knock the entire business, because they do, almost like Playboy. They have wonderful articles in regard to a lot of things. They have a lot of great interviews and shine a spotlight on so many things that are deserving of it. In the same breath, I don't even think they like music, Smitty. I really don't.
I question that a lot myself.
So that's kind of the impetus of this topic. Rolling Stone, in my opinion, has had a lot of trash takes throughout the years. And there are a lot of albums that they've trashed, and then they've gone back and years later worshipped at the altar of. Like one of the most unforgettable albums of all time. You have to listen to it before you die. Oh, really? Where were you a decade ago? And in some cases, it's the same author that's come back. And they don't retract their statements. They just have changed their mind.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, so with that, we decided that we were going to take a deep dive in our own personal thought process, comparing and contrasting what Rolling Stone has done. And then, this was a shit take, and this is why it's a shit take, is kind of where we're going with it. What albums have they trashed upon release that are actually really, really freaking good? Did I tee that up enough and not swear that much?
You reined it in a lot better than I was expecting, because I was kind of expecting one of those things where if this was a censored podcast, it would just be one constant tone with maybe like a beep and then beep, but then beep.
Yeah,
so you did well.
There's a reason why it's not a censored podcast. But that said, that is going to be our main event topic of the week. What albums did Rolling Stone really take a dump on that? Nah, you were very short-sighted with your worldview on that. And we're going to hit that next. Woo! And we are back, main event time. Rolling Stone magazine has a lot of thoughts on things, and a lot of those thoughts are fucking terrible. So we're going to shine a spotlight on some of those albums that upon release, they crapped all over, but they definitely did not deserve the hatred from Rolling Stone that they got. And in a lot of cases, the fans clapped back at it. So, yeah. Smitty, I let it off. Do you want me to continue leading it off, or do you want to take it with your first pick?
We take all kind of pills that give us all kind of thrills, but the thrill we've never known. I'm not going to finish that, but if you know the song, it ties into what we're doing. And I'll go ahead and dive into it just so that I can get things rolling on my end of things. Yeah. And because I'm one of those people, when I read reviews, exactly, you take it with a grain of salt, but I also read these things in a sense of who made you the person, who gave you this right, which I know that anybody can have an opinion. That is what it is. But who gave you the right to be the music god and to tell everybody else that this band, this song, this album, whatever, just in your own many words that you could sum up by saying this sucks, why do you have the right to do that, you know? And so going through some of these reviews, I'd forgotten a lot of them because, again, I'm not a review reader in the way that you are, because a lot of it it's one of those things where I hear what I hear. I know it may not be what you hear, but what I'm hearing, it sounds good to my ears. And a lot of them, I just wonder, what were they listening to? Which a lot of what I'm going to be doing is, I don't think I have many albums that are much past the early and mid 70s. Maybe things were different then as far as the music scene, but it's also hard for me to think that these bands that I'm going to list that had become such genre-defining, genre-creating, game changers of music, how they weren't seen this way as they came out still just kind of blows my mind. And maybe it's one of those things that with us being younger than when these albums came out, maybe the time has shifted long enough to where by the time we came along, everybody is already telling us how amazing these are. But at the same time, when you still hear it for the first time, regardless of how old it is, there's going to be the first time you hear it. And so it makes me wonder, it's like, are these people just writing this crap? It's the same thing as they just talk to hear their own voice, essentially. And so the first one that I'm going to fire off here today is one of my all-time favorite bands, one of my all-time favorite albums, and it is Black Sabbath's self-titled Black Sabbath from 1970. Now, I will say that this and their follow-up album are both, to me, ground base for heavy metal. Sludge, stoner rock, doom rock. So many bands have taken cues from Black Sabbath over the years in one way or another. Well, our good old buddy Lester Bangs decided he was going to be the one to review it, and if you've seen Almost Famous as many times as I have, you can't not think of Philip Seymour Hoffman, right? In that role. And so the whole time I'm reading this, I was just like, all right, I'm seeing Philip Seymour Hoffman in the back of my brain, and I'm getting this pretentiousness that he portrayed in the movie 100%. And so basically he goes over across the tracks in the industrial side of Cream Country like unskilled laborers like Black Sabbath, which was hyped up as a rockin' ritual celebration of the Satanic Mass, or some claptrap, something like England's answer to Coven. Well, they're not that bad, but that's about all the credit you can give them. The whole album is a shuck. And basically, he goes on to talk about how it sounds like Vanilla Fudge paying tribute to Aleister Crowley, but has nothing to do with spiritualism, the occult, anything like that. And then he goes on to say that Tony Iommi, he has lead guitar dribbles, wooden Claptonisms from the master's tireless Cream days, which, to me, there is nothing. I mean, you can hear blues rock inspired riffage with what Tony Iommi does. You know, guitar was a bit different at that time. You didn't have the guys that could shred necks. You weren't really getting the speed players. You didn't have the Van Halen influence and the tappings and things of that nature, quite like what you have in heavy metal going forward now. But I never hear the Clapton influence in that way in Tony Iommi's playing. And ultimately, Lester Bang goes on to say that the band is ultimately like Cream, just like Cream, but worse. And I don't have the overall rating of what he gave this album because I kind of just cut that part out because that alone for me was one of those things. It's like, are you serious, dude? Are you serious? Because this album, some of the songs on it, Black Sabbath, NIB, The Wizard, Warning, all phenomenal songs, all staple songs of heavy metal. And when you hear that, it's just, Lester, dude, what were you on when you listened to this? What were you on when you wrote this? So, yeah, I don't get that one whatsoever. And I know going back, it's one of those that you mentioned has been reviewed, and now they just kind of slob its knob because of how important it is. And just the complete reversal. But here we are with Lester Bang saying that it sounds like Cream, but worse.
And again, maybe it's just because, and throughout the history of Rolling Stone, rightfully so, they worship at the altar of Clapton. They always have, they always will. And let's be real. I think you and I have had this conversation off air on text many a time. As great of a guitar player as Clapton is, his best work was in Cream.
I think so. There's not really a whole lot of his solo stuff that by the time he got to that point, if you've seen pictures, if you've seen video or anything, that dude looks like he is so bored and could not be giving two craps about what he's doing that night. And I've even heard people talk about going to concerts where he had no interaction, he had no enthusiasm. It was just a guy that was, I'm just here doing this because I have to, and that's how I'm getting paid. And that's shit. If somebody's looking at you like that and the best you can give is, I don't care.
Meanwhile, no one has ever said that about Tony Iommi.
Oh,
Never.
dude. I mean, even that last show they did, he was putting it on. He can still shred. For what he does is shredding. I mean, he's not flying off the handle, off the fret or anything like that. But for what he does, he's still in the pocket with it. He can do everything he's always done, has not lost a step. And I still hope that he has some albums left in him or some songs.
Speaking of people that have not lost a step, you mentioned NIB, which thank you for including that in your mention of songs from that first record. That was their first recording.
Right.
That song is on it. Someone that has also not lost a step, Geezer Butler. My God, dude.
Yes, that dude has fingers out of this world, man.
And again, the sweetest guy. Him and Iommi, both. They've never had that. They're the asshole of the group. They're the reason why Ozzy left. They're the reason why. Nope, none of that. That's never come out about either one of them. And every act that they've been a part of, whether it be Black Sabbath or Heaven and Hell, which is the Splinter side group, whatever, and anything else that they've worked on. Again, not a bad word for either one of them. And again, you want to talk about people that you should worship at the altar of because of the contribution to the genre. I mean, my God, dude. And I'm going to move my stuff around just a little bit because this is too important not to halt this part of the conversation. What was going to be my number one worst take from Rolling Stone, they gave the follow-up to Black Sabbath, which was Paranoid, their second record. It came out the same calendar year as their debut album, and they might as well be two completely different bands. Because of, you want to talk about being revolutionary and being the godfathers of heavy metal, this is why. And take Godfather out of it. You could do the line from Childish Gambino's rap. They are the stepfathers of heavy metal. You can hate me, but you will respect. That's the way I'm looking at this album as a follow-up to what you said. Everything about it. But they upped the shredding capacity with it. I mean, just look at the title track, Paranoid. Meanwhile, Rolling Stone thought it was pertinent to review this album like this. Quote, "These would-be English kings of heavy metal are eternally foiled by their stupidity and intricability. In the early 70s, their murky drone was the more appealing for its cynicism, the philosophy that everything is crap, and a flirtation with pre-exorcist demonic possession. Time has passed them by. Their recent stuff is a quaint bore." That was written by Ken Tucker in 1983. Now, granted, around that time, was Sabbath still the same Sabbath that we had then in 1970? No, of course not. But that said, Paranoid was given a 1 star out of 5. 1 star. Are you out of your goddamn mind? What the fuck are you doing? Excuse me.
Make that make sense.
I apologize there. A little profane. But again, let's go ahead and do the track listing. I'm not just going to name off the songs that I love. I'm going to name off the whole track. There are 8 songs on this beast. War Pigs is the goddamn intro. Paranoid, Planet Caravan, and Iron Man. That's side A of this vinyl.
And that's a banger in itself.
My
right there.
God, dude. And then side B, which this is one that is, you want to talk deep cuts. If you're a diehard Sabbath fan, yeah, it's not deep cuts for you. This is standard fare. This is the shit that you always go to. For the people that are not diehard Sabbath people, or they just like the greatest hits stuff, side B is an absolute murder machine. Electric Funeral, Hand of Doom, Rat Salad, which is an instrumental, so Ozzy gets to take a breather, and then Fairies Wear Boots is your closer. Dude, just crushing start to finish. And again, I say crushing. It's not like what you think of like death metal crushing.
Right.
It is... My God, I can't even say enough good things. What was that reviewer listening to? What were you doing? And again, you look at tempo change-wise compared to their OG self-titled album. This is a lot more dynamic than that one. That one is definitely more doomy than this album. So, personal preference-wise, I've always looked at Paranoid as a better album. A more favorable album. But if you are a music reviewer and you look at either of these and you give it a 1-star review, you just don't like rock and roll. You don't like metal. You don't like, I don't know, you just don't like music, I guess.
Right.
But that's it. I mean, how did you wind up on that beat? How did you get that assignment? I just, it doesn't compute. But anyway, a 1-star review is a travesty of justice. It just shouldn't be a thing. So, needless to say, those 2 Sabbath albums, worth their weight in gold, and I think the fans and the critics that have eaten crow have learned their lesson the hard way when it comes to Iomi. So I'm not a math guy, but I always do this whenever we hear a Sabbath song come on the air, and it's right before a solo. I always look at my wife and I say, "What's the math problem?" What's the answer? She said, Iomi's greater than you. That's right. That's right. So anyway.
Perfect. I'm kind of the same with you. I've always favored Paranoid. It was when I got in college and got more into doomy stoner stuff was kind of when I started respecting the self-titled more, but I have always leaned on Paranoid. That's one that you can put on, you drop that needle, flip it over when it's done, drop it again. You do not touch anything.
Nope. And again, you look at side A and side B, it's a tale of two cities. It's side A is the all killer, no filler. That is your gold standard. These are songs that if you want a greatest hits, Black Sabbath, EP, album, Spotify list, you're going to throw all 4 of those songs on there. Done. No question.
Absolutely.
Side B, a little bit deeper. Something that may not be for everybody, but my God, dude, talk about some songs that'll kick you in the teeth. And again, I think that the first album as well and again, I know I'm worshiping at the altar of it, but NIB, you can't look at me with a straight face and tell me when that album came out that you had heard anything that sounded like that.
Oh, no, not at all.
That opening bass line. And again, when you've got bands that are like Yes and they have the prog rock movement, yeah, there are a lot more technical players. There are some rhythms and riffs that you've heard that, oh man, I don't think Black Sabbath can touch them. They weren't trying to.
No.
But you didn't hear Chris Squire play that bass line.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But and I think a lot of Sabbath, too, is just maybe at the time what they were doing was so different that people just didn't want to, it wasn't so much that they weren't embracing it. I think they just didn't want to embrace it. Maybe it was, this new thing is there's a groundswell of something new is happening, and we don't like it because it's new, rare type stuff. And now you've seen the lasting influence over generations and generations and generations. I mean, there's kids today that are 18, 19, 20 years old that are listening to bands now, and they may not have an idea, I may not have a clue that Black Sabbath has influenced their favorite metal band, but I hope they find out.
Yep. Yep,
I hope
and
they do their homework.
We're trying to educate our daughter. She's asked me about Ozzy a handful of times. She knows that he's passed, and she knows one or two Black Sabbath songs when she hears them. She's heard one or two Ozzy songs just out of curiosity. She'll click on it. So she's learning. I'm not trying to force anything on her, but yeah, for sure. Yeah, she was asking me actually last night when we were getting ready for bed. I think a Sabbath song had come on or something on her playlist, or I'm not sure how it came across, but then she was asking me, well, which one's your favorite song? Which one? And then doing the Spotify top 10 list.
Yeah.
And, well, that's number 3. This one's number 4. And so it was just a fun, educational evening before bed. And it's like, Daddy could talk to you about this all night long. It's time for bed. Stop it. You're reeling me in. You know the weight of my heart. So,
yep, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, Sabbath, out of the gate, 2 albums that completely disrespected by Rolling Stone, and unjustifiably so. So needless to say, I think now is the time to drop it. We're going to have another Spotify playlist based on these, and instead of just being songs, we're going to have the full albums up, just because that's the only way to truly let you see for yourself why these reviewers were full of shit.
Right. Soak it in for yourself. So I'm going to move along now. Yep. This is going to be the newest album I believe I have on my entire list, and it takes us all the way back to 1991. We're taking a trip back to another album that was genre-defining, maybe even genre-creating, not necessarily in terms of creating it, but exposing it to an even bigger audience, and that is Nirvana's Nevermind. It blows my mind to think that even then, that album, when you heard it, you weren't just like, this is something special. They're taking a lot of what's going on in this scene, and they're making it to where it is extremely accessible, because a lot of grunge bands, and I know we've talked about this before, there's a lot of grunge bands that leaned on noise, they leaned on the garage band sound, indie sound, punk. They really meshed a lot of stuff together. Some of it was just not all that digestible. I mean, people's going to say that. You know, there's probably some people out there that they would much rather listen to Mudhoney because they have all the dirty sounding guitars and it's fuzzy and it's lo-fi and things like that. People that like the Melvins more, the people that like Green River more, bands like that. There's nothing wrong with saying that Nirvana was the reason that you got into that scene at all. Everybody's got to start somewhere. There's no need to be pretentious, to be a music snob, to be that person that's like, well, they're good, but Bleach was better, and this album is just pop. It's not fun to listen to. No, you can take that opinion, and you can stick it up your ass, because this is a phenomenal album. And the person that reviewed it is Ira Robbins. It's like he really wanted to love it. But again, I don't think he wanted to embrace it, because I think he ultimately did give it 2.5 or 3 stars. But it was one of those where he didn't see that this album was going to do anything for the band. Because he said, this album is a dynamic mix of sizzling power chords, manic energy, and sonic restraint, and Nirvana erects sturdy melodic structure. Sing-along hard rock is defined by groups like The Replacements, The Pixies, Sonic Youth, but then attacks him with frenzied screaming and guitar havoc. Too often, underground bands squander their spunk on records they're not ready to make, then burn out their energy and inspiration with uphill touring. Nevermind finds Nirvana at the crossroads. Scrappy garageland warriors setting their sights in the land of giants. And so basically, it's like he was saying, Nirvana has put out a really good album. They're not ready for the big leagues. They're destined. They're doomed. They're going to fail with this album. You guys tried. You guys are going to fail. Whoo, man, was he ever wrong with that.
And so I have a unique perspective on this record. So am I a Nirvana fan or am I a Nevermind fan? I will be perfectly honest with you. I am a Nevermind fan more than I am a Nirvana fan. Can I respect them? Yeah, absolutely. They're one of the big four, and arguably so, as much as I want to fight it because I have such a deep love for Alice in Chains. they are probably the number one grunge band. They are the figurehead of this movement. Whether they are the creators, which they're not, or they're the most highest grossing, highest touring, they're not. But they are, for better or worse, the figurehead of this movement. And Nirvana as a whole, I think they get a little more love than, not that they should, but I feel like
it's the Kurt Cobain factor.
Exactly. I that said, I think it's because Nevermind was such an encapsulation of that moment in time. You've openly talked about your disdain for hair metal and that era of music. This was the sledgehammer to the norm. Yep. This was that moment of, we got to do something to change it. And I think the world was waiting for it. It was just their boot that got the shattered glass to break all the way.
Exactly.
And my wife is not a huge Nirvana fan. She doesn't like the way Kurt sounds. And I get that. There are a ton of bands that I like that I know a lot of people don't like the vocals. I've got another band that's coming up on my list that's going to be the same type of thing. But Nevermind, start to finish, is about as perfect a record as you could ask for. And there are so many times on that record that if you just looked at it on paper, there are songs that shouldn't fit in this mix. Like, that should be on another album, or this should have been a B-side instead of like the main core of the record. And dude, it just all works. It just it does.
It does. Yeah. I mean, you go from, I'm just going to list off all of them. There's 13 tracks on there with a hidden track included. You kick off with Smells Like Teen Spirit, which just elevated them up into the stratosphere. That was the song of, you could almost argue that was the song of the decade. Yeah. And it was definitely the song of that era of the 90s, just fully telling you just how angsty and how pissed off and how dull people were at that point. Just disillusioned with, the 80s glam cocaine hairband sort of flashy presentation. It's like, no, the world is dark. The world is dreary. We're here to tell you about it.
Well, it's ironic we're talking about this and I'm wearing my flannel today, but neither here nor there.
So we go on with In Bloom, Come As You Are, Breed, Lithium, which is one of my personal favorite songs of theirs, Polly, Territorial Pissings, Drain You, Lounge Act, Stay Away, On a Plane, another personal favorite, which is kind of a deep cut type song, Something in the Way, and then Endless Nameless is the last track. It's the hidden track on there. And as you said, that is just front to back. You have pop sensibilities, which I know, you learn that Kurt was a Beatles fan. He liked melodies. He likes simple stuff like that. And then you have heavier songs that are on the list.
Territorial Pissings is a hit song. And Kurt doesn't strike me as somebody, even though with his punk sensibilities and how wild their shows got, I don't necessarily think that he was a pit encourager. No. I don't think he's the one that was, I want to see you move. I don't think he was necessarily that guy from the footage that I've seen. But, God, if you want to bring chaos, Territorial Pissings is the way to go. Oh, yeah. Just the way that thing starts out and just kicks in, and it's loud, it's noisy, it's raucous. You're just ready to rage with that one. So, absolutely. And then, he had the ability to slow it down, strip things down with Polly, with Something in the Way, things like that really had a dark kind of melancholy vibe about it. But he made it sound powerful, and it was always something impressive to me. Nirvana was my intro, like many, to this movement. I was probably, I was 8 years old when this first came out, and I think I was probably about 10 when I actually heard it and listened to it. And so that was one of those that just blew my little 10-year-old brain apart. Like, this is the music now? This isn't Stevie Ray Vaughan. This isn't Eric Clapton. What is this? It was like the first little inkling of a musical boner, basically. And so, to me, this album's special, and I will never hold back in how much I hold it in high regard, not just for what it did, but for the world, but for what it did for me, in introducing me to this new world of music that I had never accessed before. And to know that
this album that did so much for a movement, for a genre, for everything, was only viewed at middling and was just a taking a shot at something you're not ready for. Whew, that bold. And let's see how that pays off for you, Cotton.
So just knowing what we know now about the band, obviously I think that review, not nearly as off-kilter or off-key as what we had with those two Sabbath reviews.
Right.
In a way, it was kind of prophetic because of talking about a band that is, instead of the kings of the underground, they were going to be propelled into the mainstream. Are they ready for it?
Yeah.
I think they were. But again, you can only go so hard for so long. I think if they had better management, honestly, I think if they had band management of 2026,
oh yeah,
in 1991, they would not have gone the way they did. Would they be as big as they are now? No.
Probably
Guaranteed
not,
no. But would they have more longevity? Probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But again, I think it took that level of we're all in and this is what we're going to do. This is why we're going to do it. And that's what we have. We have
Exactly.
Nevermind. We've got the Nirvana legacy, as short as it was. So, but yeah, good shout there, man. And sticking with the grunge adjacent, this is the kind of the whole reason why I wanted to bring up this topic for our main event. This band has been routinely hated on by Rolling Stone from the word jump. I'll just go ahead and read you a little clipping that I got out of a Rolling Stone, one of their, I don't even know what their encyclopedia type books are.
Okay.
The band is Stone Temple Pilots. Stone Temple Pilots managed to benefit as much from as anyone in the 90s grunge movement without ever leading it. Nirvana and Pearl Jam had more juice and headlines, but STP enjoyed as many radio-ready hits, if not staying power. The West Coast Quintet first invaded radio and MTV rotation with grunge minus the punk, as led by charismatic and troubled frontman Scott Weiland, who finally became recognized less for his rugged wail than the time wasted with drugs, arrest, and rehab. Bad Habits took him from the brooding grunge wannabe to gaunt glam peacock, though he managed to finish the decade alive. So
Wow.
that's the lead off. Then Core, which is their first album, and that's the one I was going to focus on because out of all their albums, their first three are untouchable. You and I have talked about it. Core, to me, even though Purple may be arguably their best album, Core is the one that lashed onto my soul like Nevermind did for you with Nirvana. Core would have been a marginal, forgettable debut if not for the small cachet of career-defining singles. It begins badly with the chest-beating sludge of Dead and Bloated, but soon shifts to the churning, psycho-riffing sex-type thing as Weiland drops the mental pose to sing his rape fantasy a la Jim Morrison, while the acoustic creep has him as a sensitive stooge.
Oh, that hurts. Oh, that hurts.
Which, the best part about that bit, again, I will pull up here as I steam out of my ears. I'll pull up the track listing for the album, and we'll go start to finish. But Sex Type Thing was often viewed like that by the meatheads and the idiots. It was an anti-rape. It was an anti-sexist song, and you just didn't care to look any deeper than the surface level.
No.
And yet you're going to be the pretentious fart sniffer.
Womp womp.
Track listing on this thing, it kicks off with Dead and Bloated. I don't know where they were coming from. That is one of the greatest opening songs of all time. Singing through the amp to get that initial sound, and then live he would go on a megaphone, but Dead and Bloated just kicks you right in the teeth. Then Sex Type Thing, the DeLeo brothers, man, they let that song rip.
Right.
Wicked Garden, No Memory, which is an instrumental. Sin, which that is a deep, deep cut that is one of my personal favorites. Naked Sunday, Creep, Piece of Pie, Plush, Wet My Bed, which is kind of an in-between track, didn't really have a whole lot of substance to it. That leads into my other favorite song on the record, Cracker Man. And then the last one, which is, talk about a killer tune, Where the River Goes.
Ooh, yeah.
And again, they battled their entire career. They were called essentially before Temu, they were the Temu Pearl Jam, is what they got stuck with. As someone that is a fan of the grunge movement and looks at, again, Pearl Jam is one of the big four. I'd rather listen to Scott Weiland than Eddie Vedder any day of the week. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's a personal issue. But again, the fact that review was so scathing, and the highest review of all their albums, Scott Weiland and post Scott Weiland, 3.5 stars out of 5. And they gave the first album, Core, 3.
Oof.
Just unbelievable how we're listening to the same piece of music, the same piece of art, and we view it and listen to it in a completely different way. But again, I'm also not going out of my way to shit on it to that level either.
Right. And that's kind of the beauty about music, and we've spoken about this at length before. It is subjective, so we're not all going to share the same opinions and everything, but there is at some point somewhere a bit of common ground, right, where you're going to be like, okay, clearly this is quote unquote better than that. There's ways to quantify it, I guess. Yeah. And I just don't get that. And the thing that has always bummed me about the STP reviews, like I can get why they were called the Temu Pearl Jam, because Scott Weiland's voice, he didn't really branch out as much in that first album. Like his range was still kind of confined in the middle of what he was capable of. But what has always got me is how it seems like they just completely disregard the DeLeo brothers. And those dudes, as a guitar player, I've tried to learn a lot of STP songs. And those guys throw in so many of these oddball jazz chord shapings to get more depth out of a chord, as opposed to just playing like a standard bar chord, a standard power chord, a standard open chord. They're throwing in all this intricate, like if you're trying to train your fingers to do that, doing things like this and doing it in time is hard. It's not natural. And the fact that it just kind of gets overlooked just by so many people blows my mind.
Yep. And again, if you want to look at them because of where they entered in the grunge space as the precursor to post-grunge, I would accept it. You don't have to lump them in with that grunge movement. But again, I think guilt by association more than anything else. I think their inclusion with grunge is like so many other bands in the mid and early 2000s that were labeled nu metal, unjustifiably so. You were adjacent to it, but let's just throw this net on you.
Yeah, if you came out in this era, that's what you were.
Yep.
You couldn't fight it.
Nope, absolutely not. So that is my next pick. Where do you go from here, Smitty?
All right, speaking of guitar players, I'm going to open up one that still, to this day, is my all-time guitar hero, the guitar god, the man himself, Jimi Hendrix. And this is from his 1967 album, Are You Experienced? And this was actually a review published in the very first issue of Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone, it comes out of the gate in issue number 1, swinging so hard at this guy that is labeled a guitar god. Which is funny because a lot of people try to paint Hendrix as this cocky dude. In any interview, if you've ever heard about him, he'd be like, oh, no, man, the best guitar player's in this band. No, man, the best guitar player is sitting right over here beside me. He was one of those guys that was just so, he didn't care about that. He was an artist. He just wanted to play, and he knew what he was all about. But in this interview, things say everything else is insane and simply a matter of either you dig it or you don't. And basically, I don't for several reasons. Despite Jimmy's musical brilliance and the group's total precision, the poor quality of the songs and the inanity of the lyrics get in the way. Jimmy is very much into state of mind type lyrics, but even so, lines like manic depression is a frustrating mess just don't make it. It's one thing for Hendrix to talk arrogantly and without any pretense at artistry. It's another thing to write lyrics in that fashion. And he's like, Hendrix, basically, let me get to the end of this. The worst is because Hendrix is trying to get across, what he's trying to get across is such a drag. There's no life nowhere. Dig it if you can, but as for me, I'd rather hear Jimmy play the blues. And I didn't copy and paste the track list, so give me just a second here on my phone to pull this up.
They don't get the lyrics is essentially what I'm hearing. And
basically.
It almost makes you wonder what the background of this writer was, because you've got Hendrix, you're in the Woodstock era. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be a drug culture person to truly lean in.
But you have to have an understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
Don't be daft.
I just can't wrap my head around it, man. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
All right, so I've got the track listing here, and there's 11 songs on it.
Okay.
And I would venture to say that well over half of these songs are greatest hit quality songs, which, granted, Hendrix only put out a handful of albums. He passed away in 71, I believe it was. So there's not a whole lot to choose from when it comes to Hendrix, but he kicks it off with Foxy Lady. And if you're a fan of Wayne's World, you know exactly why this song should exist. He goes on to have Manic Depression, Red House, which is one of the coolest blues style covers. Can You See Me, Lover Confusion, and I Don't Live Today is the first side. Side 2 has May This Be Love, Fire, Third Stone from the Sun, Remember, and Are You Experienced, the title track from that, which also Fire, Crucial Taunt played that song in Wayne's World. So there was a lot of Hendrix influence in Wayne's World, and there's just a lot of Hendrix influence full stop in music. He was another one of those game changers because he's out there playing guitar and making it sound like something that was not being done at all. He was, I would almost venture to say that Hendrix was prog rock before prog rock was really exploding in a way that it was. Not full on prog rock because it was definitely kind of also in the lane of heavy metal. So maybe to a degree, this is where you get the influence for bands like Dream Theater, where it's the heavy metal with the prog and things like that, because he's got a lot of psychedelic stuff going on. He's got a lot of studio effects going on that bands have done with the layering and the effects that are placed on the guitar. Just a lot of what he did, I think we could probably, looking at this, much like how Nevermind and the first Sabbath album were, that there's so much new happening with what he was doing that it was get off my lawn, I'm not embracing this because it's new, or it's just so new and overwhelming that people just weren't ready for it yet. Maybe a bit of both. I don't know. Yeah. I'm a Hendrix fan. I worship at the Hendrix altar. I have for years. But there's something missing with what he was hearing, which John Landau was the one that did this review. And I just don't know what he was listening to. Yeah, and he expresses that he wishes he could hear Jimmy play the blues. He did. And on the album. That's just it. Is it supposed to be a complimentary statement where he's such a good blues musician that's not playing the blues? If that's the case, then say it. Right. The way you say it, the way he wrote that was almost a dig of go get in your box. Right. Is kind of how it is. Stay in your lane. Exactly. Which you listen to that first album, and granted, he's got blues influence on everything that he released. But this album, I think more than Electric Ladyland especially, has got more of a blues lean to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he embraced the psychedelic a bit more going forward with that, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it. I really don't. I don't understand, and maybe I'm being negative. Maybe I'm absolutely leaning toward, no, fuck you, you're wrong.
Right.
But I don't get that comment. What it was meant to do, what it was meant to achieve.
Yeah.
Is it this is the best blues player that's not playing blues? Then say that.
Yeah.
If it's not meant to be that, if it's meant to be a dig, then what? I don't know. I don't get it.
I think it's probably, again, one of those things of just wanting to hear his own voice and smell his own farts, essentially, with what he was doing. And obviously, it's also very indicative of Hendrix's career, too, because he wasn't finding that super success in the States initially. He had to go over to England. He had to do a lot of work in England with all the British guys that were coming up, the Claptons and the Zeppelins and the Who and bands like that before he really came to America and did, Monterey Pop, which I think Monterey Pop was 67 or 68. And then Woodstock was 69. So, it took a couple of years for him to gain a foothold in America. He had to go put his time in elsewhere and become the road dog for people to. It finally became one of those where after he sets his guitars on fire enough and he's able to hang with Pete Townsend and how much destruction he's doing on those things, I guess everybody's finally like, hey, we're going to pay attention to this guy because he's doing something really freaking cool over here. So, ultimately it came around. But I will never, ever talk ill about Hendrix except for the fact that he died. So even then you can't hate a person. You can hate the way that it happened, but you can't hate the fact that it did. So
don't hate the player, hate the game, man.
Exactly. So after that, I'm halfway through with my list. Where are you rolling with yours, dude?
Let's stay funky. We were funky with Hendrix, just with his mixing of styles. I'm going to go with one that I think even my parents are going to be like, what the hell is he doing? Is he on the weed pills?
The answer is yes.
How dare you, sir? I just drink prolifically. That's what I do. So a mixed review here from Rolling Stone. So giving it credit, but shitting on it at the same time for this, again, funky record. Parliament Mothership Connection from 1975.
Oh, yes.
So here is the review. Joe McEwen from March of 76. With little regard for theme or lyric development, Clinton weaves a nonstop rap of nonsensical street jargon like a freaked-out James Brown. And oddly enough, former Brown sidemen Maceo Parker and Fred Weasley make up Parliament's horn section, along with Joe Farrell and the Brecker brothers. But this album refuses to be taken seriously, except as Clinton's parody of modern funk.
Oh my gosh. Street lingo? Really, dude? That's what you're gonna... Basically, why don't you just say, I'm too white to understand what is going on here?
Dude, and even if it gets slapped the controversial label of disco or disco adjacent, this record is one that, okay, let's just call it what it is. If you're not a funk fan or you don't like that era of music, you owe it to yourself to take a listen to it. Between George Clinton and Bootsy Collins and the rest of this super group, let's just call it what it is. Right. It is a super group of funk musicians. P-Funk Wants to Get Funked Up, Mothership Connection, Star Child, Unfunky UFO. That is side A of this record. If you want to party, dude, let's just talk us hanging out. We would throw this record on and jam.
100%.
If you are doing a theme party of any kind, like you want to do a 70s theme or a disco theme, put this bad boy on, and not a single person in your room, in your house, will have a complaint about it. And if they do, you'll ask them firmly to leave. Side B, dude, Talk about rip the knob off and just crank it all the way up. Super groovalistic. I will not even try to get through the rest of the title. Handcuffs, Give Up the Funk, which is arguably the most well-known song from this vinyl. And then Night of the Trumphosaurus Peoples. Dude, just, it is so funky and so weird. And I don't get that guy's lingo, what he's objectifying over. It's so weird. It works. And it's fun. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that is a big part of why these Rolling Stone reviews piss me off so much. They don't know how to have fun.
No, it's like they listen to these albums and they think that everything has to be a serious piece of art every single time, and if it's not that, then it's not worth listening to or something. But no, man, music's got to pump, get you moving and make you feel something, even if what you're feeling is dancing or just moving and grooving. That album accomplishes all of that, because you're spot on, dude. That is a fun album, and it's timeless because it still gets sampled. There's artists out there still sampling it.
And you want to get one of the best middle fingers a record could give after a bad review.
What's up?
So, it's their fourth album. So they had been around. They were honing their craft, and to me, this is their standout. And again, thank you, Rolling Stone, for giving it such a bad review, so I can go back and relive some of it. So their first album to be certified gold, and then later platinum, and then the Library of Congress added the album to the National Recording Registry in 2011, declaring that it has, quote, an enormous influence on jazz, rock, and dance music.
Take that, Rolling Stone.
Eat it.
Oh, man, that's definitely one going in the pipe to be smoked.
For sure.
Oh, man, well... Oh, gosh, I'm going to have to go back and listen to that one now, because it's been a minute since I've dropped the needle on that and let it go all the way through. But, yeah, you've definitely got me feeling funky tonight, my dude.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah,
right,
man.
So I'm going to go ahead and kind of go a different direction. I've got a bit of a theme going on with what I'm doing tonight. It's a lot of debut albums for bands that are considered, at this point in time, to be the pioneers of what they're doing. And this is Led Zeppelin 1, the self-titled debut album from Led Zeppelin, going all the way back to 1969. And this one, there's a quote I'm going to throw in down at the bottom. I can't remember if I saw it was a Rolling Stone or if it was another publication. I threw it in because I couldn't find who it was tagged to. But the Rolling Stone review is John Mendelsohn. And he says, the latest of the British blues group, So Conceived, offers little that its twin, the Jeff Beck group, didn't say as well or better 3 months ago. In the excesses of Beck's group's Truth album, which is most notably its self-indulgence and restrictedness, are fully in evidence on Led Zeppelin's debut album. Jimmy Page, around whom the Zeppelin revolves around, is admittedly an extraordinarily proficient blues guitarist and explorer of his instrument's electronic capabilities, but unfortunately, he is also a very limited producer and writer of weak, unimaginative songs, and the Zeppelin album suffers from his having both produced and written most of it alone or in a combination with the accomplices in his group. Did you hear the words that just came out of my mouth talking about Led Zeppelin 1?
My favorite part is such a limited... What was the exact quote?
Such a limited producer and a writer of weak, unimaginative songs.
I'm speechless as well. Do you have the track listing, please?
I do. Before I get into this, here's this other quote that I want to throw in that said that Robert Plant was dubbed as a nowhere near as exciting Rod Stewart. Think about that. He wasn't as exciting as Rod Stewart.
I mean, I'll be the first to admit, Faces is a hell of a lot better than Rod's solo stuff.
Yeah, but still.
But in no world would I ever compare Rod Stewart.
I don't know. The drugs must have been really good in 1969 to the point that it kind of rendered this dude a little stupid, for lack of better words. But our track listing on this is literally a greatest hits album. You start off with Good Times, Bad Times.
Yeah.
Then you go on to Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, You Shook Me, and Dazed and Confused. Side 2, Your Time Is Gonna Come, Black Mountain Side, Communication Breakdown, I Can't Quit You, Baby, and How Many More Times.
What? There's no way that review was meant for that. He already had it written up, and he just did like categories, and he plugged in Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw some names of people that are relevant right now. And it hurts my brain to read that. And again, maybe it's, we're hearing the album, in the 80s, 90s, whatever. There's been a lot of time for the greatness that is Led Zeppelin to have, done its thing. But at the same time, dude, what are they not hearing?
And I know whenever best albums are bantied about, what's your favorite Pink Floyd record? What's your favorite Black Sabbath record? May not be the same as yours, and for a lot of people, Zepp 1 may be their favorite. For a lot of people, it's 4, and that's kind of the standard go-to. Even if you don't know music, that's the safe one to go to. Oh, Zepp 4, that's the one. Because fine, you know the most songs on it, and that's fine. It is what it is. But just the fact that this record got that level of disrespect, I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Yeah. So, I'm still sort of speechless. So I think I'm done with all I can say about this, because I think history has proven just how important Led Zeppelin is to, again, they could be one of the foundational blocks for heavy metal.
Yeah.
And, they're the heavy blues metal type bands at the time that came around. It's a little bit different than what Sabbath was doing. You can see some merging in spots, but Zeppelin went the rock and roll lifestyle direction. Sabbath obviously went a darker direction. Crossover, sure. British bands, sure. Yeah, you've got loud, you've got rowdy, yeah, sure. But it's kind of two different sides of the heavy metal coin, I suppose. And so, for a band that became that influential, their debut album to be crapped on like that, dude, I don't get it. So go ahead and carry on with your next one, please.
So sticking with a similar theme, similar genre, so to speak, we're staying with 70s rock. So 1976 is when this album came out. I actually am lucky enough, and my parents will be thrilled that I'm referencing something that I've inherited from them. The vinyl is actually upstairs right now under my record player.
Heck yeah.
It is a band that throughout the years, I've had a real love and hate relationship with. Not because I loathe activities that band members have done and, oh my God, I can't listen to their music anymore because something awful's happened. It's not that. It's just either I got burnt out on stuff, like it burned to a crisp and it hasn't come back around, or some stuff, it's like, ooh, that shouldn't have been a single, or I don't like that record compared to your old stuff. And I think every band has iterations of that. But this band is Aerosmith. The album is Rocks.
Okay.
I've got that track listing pulled up. I will read that to you. Well, actually, let me go the opposite route. I'm going to read you the track listing for this record first, and then I will go into the review. So, this record starts with Back in the Saddle. Now, again, this was one of my all-time favorite Aerosmith songs. If I were to do a mixtape just of Aerosmith stuff, I would struggle not to find a place for this song up until the last calendar year. It is the theme song for WrestleMania, and I am sick of the hook. It's killing me because I love that song, and the initial blast of it was, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and now it's just been worn out, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been beat like a dead horse to a pulp. It's glue now. That said, I am very excited because I've told Aaron whenever we've had wrestling on and they're doing the WrestleMania promos and that plays, she does tap her feet to it. She does like it. I've told her we can put the record on. We have it. And she, really? So she's looked at it, but we haven't quite dropped the needle on it yet. But anyway, back in the saddle, another tune that really hardly ever gets talked about, and you never hear it on the radio, Last Child.
Oh, yeah.
Rats in the Cellar combination, that's side A. Side B, Sick as a Dog, Nobody's Fault, Get the Let Out, Lick and a Promise, and Home Tonight. Dude, it is a solid record, start to finish. I will argue side A, a little stronger.
It is, yeah.
Definitely one of mine that's, if I'm going to listen to that record, probably side A, and then we're good, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
But they gave it, I don't even have a star rating. It's just rated unfavorable. Quote, the best performances here, Lick and a Promise, Sick as a Dog, and Rats in the Cellar, are essentially remakes of the highlights of the relatively flat Toys in the Attic. The material is rock's major flaw, mostly pale remakes of their earlier hits, notably Dream On. That review is from John Millward from July of 76.
Wow. How about that?
Yeah,
John, you said words, and none of those words made sense.
Those were certainly words from the English language.
Yeah, that is a fact.
And again, I've had a love-hate relationship with Aerosmith. I never want to hear Pink or Never Want to Close My Eyes. What the hell is the name of that song? The one from Armageddon.
Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Yeah.
There it is.
I never want to hear that song ever again.
Yeah.
Ever.
I'm with you.
I'm sorry. I don't. I've heard it too many times. I never want to hear it again. I never want to hear Pink again.
I'd be okay if I never heard Walk This Way again. I'm so tired of that song.
Yeah. And for a hot minute, that was my biggest dig on Aerosmith. You've got more greatest hits albums than you have albums.
Right.
I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. But that said, when you have songs and albums like this one, you say it's a retread from previous material. What are you listening to? And then the most noteworthy songs, the best performances, aren't even the songs that this album's known for.
Again, what are you listening to? Did you just plug in random songs? Did you just grab stuff out of air? Did you listen to a Conway Twitty album and just do Aerosmith songs on there, sir? I don't know what happened with your interview here.
I don't have any idea, man. But yeah, that Aerosmith rocks. Again, upstairs on vinyl. I flirted with bringing it downstairs for a show and tell, but I'm like, that's not worth it. I'll leave it down here and then worry where did it go? What happened to it? The time I do want to listen to it. So, but anyway, yeah, that one's one I inherited from my parents' collection when they were in high school, and really cool to have that memory and that connection with them and get to listen to what they were rocking out to back in the day.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm going to move on to my number 5, and we're going to take a trip back to 1972. And this is an artist that I have gone in and out of love with over the years as well. And it's one of those things where I guess some days just his songs hit right, and some days they just don't. Some days maybe I'm just not in the mood for him. Some days I just find him a little whiny. But this is the Harvest album from Neil Young. This is a beautiful album. This is a wonderful album. And I'm going to go on. This is John Mendelsohn once again, which we heard from him earlier. I believe he was the one that did the Zeppelin debut album review.
So he certainly knows words.
He knows words, yeah. So we're going to hear some of his words right now. He says, Harvest, a painfully long year plus in the making, or seemingly more aptly assembling, finds Neil Young invoking most of the LA variety of superstardom's weariest cliches in an attempt to obscure his inability to do a good imitation of his earlier self. Truth be told, I listened to the entirety of Harvest no less than a dozen times before touching typewriter to paper. Ultimately, managing to come up with only one happy thing to say about it. Neil Young still sings awful pretty and often even touchingly. For the most part, though, he seemingly lost sight of what once made his music uniquely compelling and evocative, and became just another pretty singing solo superstar, which can't help but bring me down. I don't think that guy heard the words that came out of his mouth. Because this album, this is a standard for Americana music.
Yeah.
You could almost consider this to be the standard for Americana music recorded like this. In fact, Harvest became the best-selling album of 1972. The number one album of the Billboard 200 for 2 weeks, and even earned the number 78 spot on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums in 2003.
You don't say.
Right. It's like you actually listened to it before you made a statement. Listen to it a dozen times, my ass, man. I can't buy that, because let's listen to the tracks real quick before we have a little bit of talk.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple songs on here that if they don't hit you in one way or another, I don't think that we listen to music the same way.
No.
But this album has on side one, Out of the Weekend, Harvest, A Man Needs a Maid, Heart of Gold, which I believe was his biggest selling single, biggest moving single of all time.
Wow, then, I wouldn't have guessed that. I mean, I'm not that surprised, but that does kind of catch me off guard a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then wrap out side one is Are You Ready for the Country? And then side two is the side of the album for me that does it all. Side two starts off with Old Man, which is a beautiful song.
Yeah.
There's a World, Alabama, The Needle and the Damage Done, and Words. And Old Man and Needle and the Damage Done, both of those songs really hit me hard. Heart of Gold, obviously a great one. Harvest is a great song. Just really all those songs. Sure, he wasn't the same as he was in Buffalo Springfield or Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. It was different. It's called Your Style is Evolving. And that's exactly what I think Neil Young did. And he put out an album, which we can go back and look at all the obligatory albums he did where he tried to do different genres and try to do stuff just to get out of his contracts. You know, Neil Young played the game. He knew what to do. But this album, it's beautiful. And if you're not a fan of Americana, which, you know, a lot of albums in that Americana genre are very lyrically depth, thematically deep, things of that nature that are blue collar and it's everybody feels it and understands it. Listen to this album and you'll definitely understand that what Neil Young did wasn't just him going and partying and trying to throw something on there. No, that he was putting his feelings out there with a lot of stuff. And it's one that in reading that, didn't get it whatsoever. And that may be the one that was the most egregious of all of them for me, because I get it. Bands or debut albums have a chance to be crapped on like that. I understand that. But for an established person like Neil Young to create this, and this guy's just like, you know what? I liked old Neil Young better. I don't get it.
You're my friend, and I love you, and I never want to see you in pain or sad or angry, but I could see the rage bubbling when you were opining on this one. And obviously, this is one of those records that does hit you in a special place. And I can appreciate it, just like what I said with Aerosmith. There are times that I don't want to listen to this at all. There are other times it hits right. And the fact that this guy, he listened to it a dozen times. Bullshit. Either if you listen to it a dozen times, that means you dropped Needle and you went outside and further away from the speakers as possible. Oh shit, I left it on, just like I left the stove on.
Yeah,
it just shut up.
It was on in the background while he was doing chores.
I don't know, man. And again, I think Neil Young, for me, I would struggle. So if we did a mixtape on just Neil Young, I would have a difficult time on my side coming up with my 6 or 5 assigned songs that I could really throw my heart and soul into. He does have several songs that I can relate to, and some of them are on this record. But I think overall, he's just an artist that isn't for me. But am I going to shit on a record like that? And then my same publication that paid me money to write this years later throws it in the top 500. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. At the top, what was it? 78. So it's in the top 100 of your top 500 greatest albums. Yeah. At that point, just close the doors. Just go home, you know. You clearly are out kicking your coverage of what you're capable of.
Yep. So my next pick is going to be a band that I associate with my dad, because we listened to a lot of their songs in the truck. His old Jimmy GMC that had a big rust hole in the floor. Just happy memories. It makes me think of my dad. And it come to find out, as I get into adulthood, he's much more of an eclectic music listener than just this band. But still, I have that association with these guys with my dad. The band is ZZ Top. The album is from 1973, Tres Hombres. Now, is this my favorite ZZ Top album? No. It's not. It's probably down toward the bottom of the list. But that's like saying, oh, well, I like steak, but this isn't my favorite cut of steak. It's still excellent for what you're getting. You're getting what you pay for. ZZ Top Tres Hombres, a 2-star rating.
Ooh, seriously.
So, again, if you want to just take it, out of 5, they give it a 2. Well, I wonder what their fault is on it. This is why I put this in versus at least a dozen other albums that I considered to put on my 6 albums. ZZ Top were never more than a poor man's Lynyrd Skynyrd. Some rural feeling, but mostly just numbing guitar drive. Rock and roll can be mindless fun, but it never deserved to be this empty-headed.
Oh, that hurts.
Dave Marsh, 1979.
Oh, that hurts so much. Poor man Skynyrd, really? Are you what?
What?
I don't get.
Then we follow up. If you didn't think that Dave was done, quote, the ZZ formula runs something like this. Take a B.B. King blues lick, speed it up, and amplify it to a dull roar, overdub a gruff vocal, and then garnish with a touch of maracas, tambourine, or hand clapping, end quote.
I don't have words for this, man. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, dude. What?
I just
looked at my watch and my heart rate is up to 110 right now. I'm over here stewing in this.
and here, just for the sake of, is this guy like, is he allowed to live on his own? Does he need to be in a group home? Side 1, Waiting for the Bus, Jesus Just Left Chicago, Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, Master of Sparks, Hot Blue and Righteous. So, some very, very integral ZZ Top staple songs.
Yeah.
Side 2, or Side B, Move Me Down the Line, Precious and Grace, LaGrange, Shriek, and Have You Heard?
Oh my gosh.
What was that guy smoking?
Yeah, because the first few tracks on the first side are just enough to be like, yeah, I'm digging this. But when you get to LaGrange and you're just like, this album isn't doing it for me. Okay.
Now, to be fair, he did listen to it a dozen times, so he might have just missed it before he put typewriter to paper. But again, this was the band's first collaboration with their longtime engineer, Terry Manning. It was their commercial breakthrough in the U.S. They debuted at number 8 on the Billboard 200. LaGrange reached number 41 on the Billboard Hot 100. And the first of many of their albums to incorporate Spanish terminology in its branding.
Yeah.
Again, what are you even typing? What are you talking about?
I mean, I can get the comparisons of the B.B. King thing that he talked about because they do follow a blues structure. But that ain't what B.B. King was doing. That ain't sound like what B.B. King was doing. My God, no. And not any way saying anything bad about what B.B. King ever did at all, because B.B. King is God tier musician to me as well.
Well, and that little dig that they threw out there, that one was probably like, if the guys read that, hell yeah, we're getting compared to B.B. King with our guitar playing. I'm sure they love that. Please, poor man's Lynyrd Skynyrd. What?
To me, that's just like saying that any band that has a southern twang to it is a Skynyrd band. And it can be, because Skynyrd relied on a lot of guitar harmonies. Sure, they sing about stuff from the South. But Florida South and Texas South, that's two different worlds, lyrically. And then sound-wise, you just got Reverend Willie G up there doing his thing. He's not harmonizing with, him and Dusty harmonize, guitar and bass to a degree. But it's nothing like...
He slumped to the floor, ladies and gentlemen, but it wasn't because of his illness. It's because of disgust.
Oh.
All right, man. By my count, you were on your last pick for Rolling Stone, absolutely shitting their whole pants. What do you got?
I'm going to go to 1975. And this is an album that equal parts reminds me of my uncle for showing me how to play some of these songs on guitar, and my dad because of how many times we listened to a song in particular from this album. And this is Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here.
Nice.
My favorite album of the Floyd collection. It's the one that when Dad finally introduced me to it as a kid, I had heard enough of... Dark Side of the Moon, and Dad was like, all right, why don't you try this one on? And I'm forever thankful and forever grateful that I finally got out of the whole Dark Side is all that is Pink Floyd mindset and finally expanded. And it really got me to listen to Pink Floyd's discography just across the board. But this album is so, the depth of it, there's heaviness to it, and as much as Pink Floyd could be heavy, both musically and thematically. And in 1975, November 6, 1975, Ben Edmonds of Rolling Stone, he gave Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here a lukewarm reception, criticizing it as a solemn and lackadaisical album that failed to passionately address the subject of Syd Barrett, which Syd Barrett, for those who don't know much about Pink Floyd, was the original singer of the band. And the story goes that as they were recording this album, he came into the studio. Now, you've heard either stories of he sat behind the control panel and the band didn't know, or you heard that he was up in the rafters looking down. And I believe that actually the band talked to him. They had conversations. It was very much this album's about you. And they were all kind of heartbroken to see their former energetic, kind of enigmatic singer not looking like himself. He'd gained weight, lost his hair. And this was kind of their... thank you to a degree, talking about this man that helped them to build the foundation of where they got. And so Rolling Stone goes on to say that the band felt devoid of sincere passion and they were trapped by their own dullness. Shine on criticism of this, Edmonds famously wrote that the tribute to Barrett was so clinical that they might as well be singing about Roger Waters' brother-in-law getting a parking ticket. I can see your brain is getting ready to just pop right out of your ears at this point. You're hearing what I'm saying, right?
So clinical.
Right?
What?
There's
please go on. Please go on.
The last little bit here says, recognizing it as a critique of the music industry, the original review suggested the execution was too solemn and ultimately underwhelming. But despite the lukewarm critical start in review, it is now regarded as a masterpiece and ranked highly in Rolling Stone's top 500 albums list. And this album only has 5 songs on it.
Yeah.
Two of them being extensions of one another. You start off, if I can say words, you can start off with Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which has 5 movements to it. And then the track number 2, Welcome to the Machine, wraps up side 1, which Welcome to the Machine, I heard Shadows Fall do a cover of this. And it is so brutal. I believe it's Shadows Fall. Just a heavy, brutal cover, which also lends itself, to show how heavy Pink Floyd could get when you listen to this song and their style. And then you go on to side 2, which kicks off with Have a Cigar, which has one of just the coolest bass lines to it in a Pink Floyd song. And then the song that will forever be in my heart, the title track of this album, Wish You Were Here, will forever just get me right here anytime I hear it. And then the album wraps up with a reprise to Shine On You Crazy Diamond with the last 5 parts. And so for only having 5 songs on there and still being about 40-ish minutes long in totality, it packs a lot of movement. It packs a lot of depth. To me, it packs a ton of emotion. And I don't see how they consider this to be lackadaisical and clinical in the content that they were covering, talking about Syd Barrett. I do not understand this one single bit.
And they choose to focus on Shine On because I guess it's the monumental anchoring pieces, start and finish. But you're missing out on these other amazing songs in their catalog that the musicianship alone, let alone the lyrical content, is worth the price of admission alone. And then when you factor in the tribute to Syd and the story that Syd came in when they were recording and nobody recognized him at first. I hadn't heard he was in the rafters or he was behind the board. I heard they thought it was a homeless man that wandered in off the street and was just kind of out there. And then I don't remember, was it Waters or Gilmour that recognized that it was Syd?
I think it was David Gilmour, the best I can remember.
Because then it was still the tumultuous, he kind of took my job. But And again, speaking of Gilmour, you and I have opined on this many times. The solo on Wish You Were Here is one of the greatest solos of all time.
Wish You Were Here didn't have much of a solo to it. To me, the Comfortably Numb might be the one you're thinking.
Yeah, sorry. My bad. My bad.
All good.
But either way, with Wish You Were Here, that is Gilmour's song.
Yeah,
and we've opined on that as well, that when he's done a solo album and he's got a live version of that, which I think that came out early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's been that long ago.
No, but that version blew me away. Like, I couldn't get over the fact that it was, it's not Floyd, so it's not going to be that good.
Right.
No, it smoked.
It worked,
So again, that whole record, and again, talking about the emotional weight of the tribute, to an extent, The Wall is still a tribute to Syd, a little bit of a love letter to him, not explicitly like this one is. I think this one carries more emotional weight, and maybe it's because I've been exposed to The Wall way more.
Possibly, and I know that as soon as I heard the song, the title track, Wish You Were Here, it seemed like that line of we're just two lost souls living in a fishbowl year after year. That has always just stuck with me, and just like how you could be still so close to somebody, yet so far away from them that you miss them, but you also don't know them anymore. And that one has always kind of set heavy on me. It's like how you can just see a person and think of a person, the memories of a person, however you want to think about it. And it weighs on you, but it's also, this is the memory and it hurts, but I don't know you anymore. It's something like that, And so, I do not understand at all how they could say that this was just a cookie cutter sort of album.
Clinical.
Swing and a miss. Womp womp. All right, my man. So that's all I've got for my list, and I'm very curious to hear how you're ready to wrap yours up.
Well, it's very funny how our lists coincided somewhat. You went funky with Hendrix, and I went funky with Parliament, and we went classic rock. We had 2 Sabbath albums. This one, not necessarily the same as Pink Floyd, but more in that vein with a little bit of prog, and also the utmost disrespect of one of the most prolific instrumental bands of all time. From 1976, Rush 2112.
I don't want to hear this.
And Smitty has left the building. I will hold for dramatic pause. I needed you to hear how much disrespect they give this record. 2 stars. Quote, this Canadian power trio, which boasts a vocalist who sounds like a cross between Donald Duck and Robert Plant, reached its pinnacle of success the day it was discovered by Circus Magazine and turned into fanzine wall decoration material. Rush is to the late 70s what Grand Funk was to the early 70s, the power boogie band for 16 Magazine's graduating class. Rush Archives reissue of the first LPs is docked 1 star for pointlessness. That is from Alan Neester from 1979's Rolling Stone Record Guide.
You know, when hearing that really makes me appreciate more what Alex Lifeson said during their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, because it seems like he echoed what this guy just said, which was basically blah, 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 blah.
Oh my God, man. And again, I mentioned it earlier. Not everybody likes Geddy's voice.
I get it. Oh yeah.
I get it 100%. And it's like a lot of bands. There's certain genres of music I want to listen to about a handful of songs and then I need a break. I get that.
Yeah. I think that Neil Peart was entirely too wordy with a lot of the lyrics that he wrote for the music, how things worked. I will forever think that, but that doesn't mean it was bad.
No. So it's a tale of 2 sides for sure on this record. Side 1 is 2112. 20 minutes, 34 seconds, broken down into 7 sections. Overture, Temples of the Shrinks, Discovery, Presentation, Oracle, The Dream, Soliloquy, and Grand Finale. To me, movements 1 and 2 are top-notch songs individually. Yes. You don't even need to have the whole movement, but if you do, I feel like if you're going to play it all. Right. It's like Van Halen. If you're going to play Eruption, play Hot for Teacher immediately after. You can't separate them. They belong together. Yep. But if you're going to break them apart and be a radio industry shill, Overture and Tipples are fantastic songs, just standalone. But altogether, it's a fantastic piece of art. Side 2, A Passage to Bangkok, Twilight Zone, Lessons, Tears, and Something for Nothing. Just, dude. and I'll be perfectly honest, 2112, for being such a great album, isn't even my favorite Rush album. Same. It isn't even my number 1. I would argue that it's on the low end of my top 5. But that said, to get a review like that and to give it 2 stars, we're not on the same planet. We can't be.
And I think Rush goes back to the same thing you were talking about with Parliament earlier. They were viewed as kind of nerdy. They were viewed as not really rock stars. They were viewed as they are good musicians, but for a lot, it was just that. And it's like, you can't, they're having fun, and you can hear that they're having a lot of fun in their albums and the content. But it's like, because they're having fun and they're doing this kind of off kilter, off beat sort of thing in their prog world, because it wasn't like Yes. It was completely different from what Yes was doing. And apparently they just didn't fit the mold. Is it because they're Canadian? Because that's not cool.
So 2112, their fourth studio album, released in 76, which this is insane to me. Listen to this. It was recorded in January of 76 and came out March 76.
Man.
It's not like they dropped it to Spotify.
Yeah.
They had this printed and released. How is that a thing?
I think it would take most bands today that long just to do like half of the movements of 2112.
Oh, easily. Easily. So anyway, they dropped it in March. Following the disappointing sales of their previous album, Caress of Steel and Fly By Night, which both failed to chart at the top half of the Billboard 200, which that's an insult because we mentioned this one may not be toward the top end of my top 5.
Fly By Night?
Fly By Night is definitely in the top half of my top 5, if not fighting for that number 1 spot. Anyway, 2112 then became the band's first major commercial success. The album reached number 5 on the Canadian charts, 61 on the U.S. charts, and since its release has become a steady seller over many, many decades and has maintained a cult following among Rush fans.
The ultimate suck it.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And even if you're not a Rush fan, this is a music theory lesson.
Yes.
If you are a music fan, if you are a rock fan, hell, if you are someone that kind of like, ooh, prog, I can kind of dig this. Oh, well, you got to check this out. Mm-hmm. That's it. You don't have to make it your identity. It doesn't have to be your favorite song or your favorite band or your favorite album. You got to respect what this thing is. Because
Right.
what the first time you hear it, your brain leaks out of your head. It's like, what?
Yeah, it takes you on an adventure. And I don't know if you ever did it or not, but did you play the Guitar Hero that had the entirety of 2112
No.
on it?
Oh, God. That makes my hand cramp up.
Oh, dude, that was... And I played it on one of the lower levels, and about halfway through, you're like, is the song almost over? Is the song almost over? It's still going on. Yeah.
Thank God it was on Guitar Hero and not Rock Band, because if you were trying to play
God,
drums,
dude.
you failed immediately.
I would just put sticks down. Wouldn't even attempt it. Oh, dude. But this was a great main event topic. And again, it's one of those things where I'm not as in tune to reading reviews because of, again, like I said, subjective matter. And it's also one of those things where, and this is probably just me being too nice to a degree, but I keep this in mind a lot when it comes to music reviews, when it comes to talking about bands. If I'm around somebody and I say, oh, I think this band sucks, which I don't say that very often. But if you imagine being around somebody, and this has happened to me many times, being around somebody's like, oh, I think that band sucks. This album sucks. And if you like this album, then you're stupid, basically. And it's like, but I like this band, and that's the first album of theirs I heard. You know, you don't know any better. You know, there's no need to go about it like that. You can frame your opinion in a completely different way. You don't have to be like, well, this is my opinion. Am I right to it? No, you're just being a dick at this point. Don't be a dick. Encourage, you know.
I think where you and I come into play. Yeah, there have been songs that I've heard that, oh God, just let me jump out in traffic so I don't have to listen to this song anymore. But I also have the awareness of this is somebody's favorite song.
Exactly.
And for me, if it's a band that I love and somebody doesn't like it, I don't want to have the politics talk with you and get into a debate. I don't want to get into the religion talk and get into a debate with you. I will get into the debate on music, but not to be contentious, not to get mad at each other. Yeah. I want to know why you feel like this album sucks, because I like it. So now I can have that counterpoint of, well, this is why I like it. Why don't you?
Exactly. And again, it all goes back to subjectiveness.
Yeah, and again, I think that's the big struggle with Rolling Stone. With these written reviews, you don't really get to interact. You're just reading it in black and white. There is no shade of gray with this conversation. It's the final word. And the other thing is, Rolling Stone, it shows that they're not just living on reputation. They've put this out there in the atmosphere since the first issue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Launching into it with Hendrix from #1 and then just still ongoing. So it is what it is. There's always going to, and that's, in a way, that's kind of the beauty of music, because you're always going to have something you can talk about. You're always going to have something you can debate. But I also hope that you can always take it in a way of being like, okay, tell me what you like about this. I'll tell you something that I like about this. Let's bridge gaps. Let's not blow up bridges, you know?
Exactly. Right on the nose, my friend. Well, again, I appreciate this conversation as always. We are needing to get you to bed so you can get up dark and early.
Yeah. By the time you wake up, I'll probably have already had 3 cups of coffee and maybe a Red Bull IV drip or a Monster.
There you go. Butt chugging Red Bull in the morning. Yep. You gotta love it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let the Red Bull and the coffee spit roast me.
And that said, fingers up, sir.
Ooh.
Boop. I love you, man.
I love you, buddy.
Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you again soon.
See ya.
See ya.